Hi everyone, welcome to GoSustainable YouTube channel. I'm Adiel. I'm working as a GoSustainable consultant. So today I'd like to share with all of you our Climatarian Movement campaign, and I would like to explain about that. So our Climatarian Movement called Climatarian, a diet that feeds the world. Before I start to explain about our campaign, I'd like to share a story first. Does anyone knows who's the person on the screen? He is Chef Massimo Bottura. He's a native chef from Modena, Italy. He's very well known and he owns a Michelin star restaurant. In Modena, Italy, it's very famous for the cheese. They have king of cheese. It's called Parmigiano Reggiano. Why they call it king of cheese? It's because the way of they process it. It's not only made by local people, but it's also only made from 3 ingredients: milk, rennet, and salt. And also other than that, the length of the maturation process is different compared to the other type of cheese. It needs 12 months until 40 months for the maturation process. And the way it's being stored. Yes. So the cheese, it's stored on the wheels, and the wheel is very, very big. Back in 2012, there was an earthquake happened. And because of that, it destroyed the factory. It destroyed the industry. It's also destroyed the wheels. And yes, the 380,000 wheels of Parmigiano Reggiano cheese were destroyed. Because of that, the consortium asked help to the chef Massimo Bottura because they don't want it just to be gone. So they asked Chef Massimo Bottura about what should they do to save the 380,000 wheels of Parmigiano cheese. So what did Chef Massimo Bottura did? I'll explain that later. If we are talking about disaster, so I found the data between the period of May until June, there was 11 disasters happen in Indonesia, such as fire forests, landslides, floods, and droughts. And we all know disaster caused by climate change. And speaking of climate change, we are all aware that climate change is caused by the human activities. But what kind of human activities? We tend to think the big human activities such as industrial, mining, energy productions, it contributes to the climate change. But the fact, it's not only that, but also it's our daily activities that contributes to the climate change, such as the food that we eat. You must be shocked when I say the food that we eat. Yes, the nasi goreng that we are having, it contributes to the climate change. How is that possible? It's because it's very related to the food productions. I'll explain that on the next slide. There are negative environmental impact of food productions. The first one is greenhouse gas emission, loss of land, food waste, and loss of water. If we take a look about greenhouse gas emission by sector, energy has the majority of the percentage. And after that, agriculture, forestry, and land use, industry, and waste. That's for the global greenhouse gas emission. How about the Indonesia greenhouse gas emissions? The energy is not so high, but the agriculture, forestry, and land use higher compared to the other sector. Why is that? Because Indonesia is an agricultural country. So back to the questions on the previous slide. Why food production, or why our food can cause climate change? Why our food can emit greenhouse gas emissions? It's all because of the food productions. And the food productions is apart from all of the sectors. So it's not only about the energy, but it's also a part of agriculture, forestry, and land use. It's also a part of industry. There's also a part of waste. What does that mean? I explain that next. So the 26% of food production shares to the global greenhouse gas emissions. Like I said, the food production is apart from the sectors: energy, agriculture, forestry, and land use, industry, and waste. For instance, land use, we can take the example from crop productions, farming, animal feeding, food processes in industrial process, food distributions that involve transportation, retail, and also packaging. And processing, transport, retail, and packaging, it's a part of the supply chain. And they use the amount of energy. So that's why the food that we eat, it emits a greenhouse gas emission. Imagine the beef burger that we are having. It produces carbon dioxide, methane, and nitrous oxide. These are three powerful gases, and they stay long on the atmosphere. So for the carbon dioxide, it stays between 100 until 1,000 years. And it has a global warming potential, of course. So what does that mean? Global warming potential. So it's the heat that being absorbed by the gas itself on the atmosphere. For the carbon dioxide, the value is 1. On the other hand, for methane, it's more powerful compared to the carbon dioxide. It has 28 global warming potential, even though it stays shorter, which is 12 years on the atmosphere, but still, the global warming potential much higher. And last, the nitrous oxide, much more powerful. So it's the most high greenhouse, it's the most high global warming potential, which is 269, and it stays 100 years. So that's why this Climatarian movement, we want to encourage people to be more mindful in terms of the heating habit. Let's take a look for the greenhouse gas emission of food products. If we take a look on the left side, the meat product and dairy product, they have higher greenhouse gas emissions compared to the plant-based product. For example, for 1 kilogram of meat, beef product, it has 60 kilograms CO2 equivalent greenhouse gas emission. Yeah, it's very high. Can you imagine one portion of beef steaks? The emissions, it could be similar to 40-minute flight for a Boeing 747. And yeah, this is really a serious problem for us. If we remember on the graph, beef, it has the highest greenhouse gas emissions compared to the other food products. Why is that? It's because cow is a ruminant animal. What does that mean? What is ruminant animal? So cow has digestive system more than one. And because of that, cow usually swallows the food that they eat, and it releases cow burps. And in the cow burps, it contains methane. And besides that, the production of manure from cow also release methane. And also about dairy product. Why does it has more greenhouse gas emission compared to the plant-based product? It's because for the dairy products, it requires large amount of milk and also the energy used in terms of the production process, and it releases carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. And how about the nitrous oxide? Yes. So the use of nitrogen fertilizer to grow the grass faster in the farming, it caused the nitrous oxide being released to the atmosphere. And the other than greenhouse gas emissions, the land use also become one of the things that we should concern related to the negative environmental impact. For the land use, the majority of livestock is 77%, and also crop productions, which is 23%. And from that, let me break it down for you. So cutting down the forest, like land clearing, it leads to the deforestations. Because during the land use, there are activities that can damage soil. And as we know, soil is a basic entity of life. It depends on it because the 95% of food productions, it depends on the land, it depends on the soil. And nowadays, the industrial agriculture has been adapted, and the equipments, it damage the topsoil. And in order to form topsoil, it requires 7.5 years, and it only formed like 2.5 centimeters. And besides, the use of chemical, It also kills the microorganism that's supposed to give nutrients to the soil. Yes, 70% of land are used for human activities. And as we know, human activities cause climate change. And up to 40% land have been degraded. And the researcher predicts by 2050, the 60 million kilometer squares of land will be degraded. And it's similar to the size of Russia. Before I continue, I'd like to ask all of you to reflect this, how the food that we eat affected not only to the atmosphere, but also land. And this is why we should really concern about this. And the other problem is loss of water. Because to produce 1 kilogram of food product, it requires 1,000 liters of water. Not only for meat productions, it's also available for the plant-based productions or nut productions. It's because the food systems use the 70% of fresh water. It could be for irrigations, farming, crop productions, and livestock. And the researcher predicts by 2030, there are 700 million people will be at risk because of the loss of water. And can you imagine how serious this problem is? So this is 1 kilogram of meat. It requires 15,000 liter. It equals, so to produce 1 kilogram of meat, it requires 3,425 gallons of aqua. That's very big amount of water. And the other thing, it's about food waste. Yes. So food waste, it caused by the inefficient of processing, storage, distributions, and also the way we consume our food. And based on the data, there's 115 until 184 kilograms per capita per year of food waste that being produced. And food waste share 7.3% to the greenhouse gas emissions in Indonesia. So it's not only about the greenhouse gas emissions, but there are loss of land, loss of water, and food waste. And because of that, GoSustainable create Climatarian Movement, and we have very simple rule called Plumo. And through this Climatarian Movement, we encourage and we want to ask restaurants to be our participant to create one special Climatarian dish and add it to the general menu. So let me explain you about Plumo and let me show you through this short clip. Yes, we believe plumo is the solution. It's because plumo means feather, feather is light, and we believe through this, we will also produce very small amount of greenhouse gas emissions to the environment. P, for plant-based. Why? Because it produces less emissions compared to the other type of food product. L, for locally sourced, because we want to boost local economy, and also it has less emissions in terms of the food distribution. U, for unprocessed, because it's less processed means less emissions and also fresh ingredient. M, for minimal package, because less emission from the packaging side. And organic food, because organic food means non-chemical and also non-GMO. And I believe through this, it could save future generation. How through this Climatarian campaign, the greenhouse gas emission could be reduced. GoSustainable creates comparison through calculation for the emissions on non-Climatarian dish and Climatarian dish. So we make assumption for this calculation. And it's also based on the data. For the non-Climatarian dish, we have beef steak as an example. So for the formula, we multiply the emission factor for each ingredient and quantity for each ingredient. And the result for non-Climatarian dish, the emission is 18.25 kilograms CO2 equivalent. And for the Climatarian dish, which is jackfruit steak, it only emits 0.41 kilograms CO2 equivalent. From that calculation, we make assumption if 20% of registered restaurant on TripAdvisors join the movement, which is 200,000 restaurants, and 30 people order the dishes in a year, we could reduce up to 20% reductions of greenhouse gas emission for food production. Besides that, through this Climatarian Movement campaign, we encourage restaurants at the same time collaborate with the food rescue organizations. We saw the number of the food waste. And the fact is 9% of Indonesian population is underprivileged population. And the food waste, it still contains nutrients such as energy, irons, vitamins. And imagine if the 50% of food waste per year from 20% of registered restaurant on TripAdvisors collaborate with the food rescue organizations, they could help for millions of underprivileged population in Indonesia. So how the restaurants can do this? Yes, let's join our Climatarian movement. It's very advantageous for the restaurants, for the food and beverage industry, because it's about future-proof and risk management. There was a data in the EU, vegan population doubled in 4 years. And we believe Climatarian could be a new trend. And we believe people will be more conscious and more conscious through this Climatarian movement. And that's why restaurant has to be ready for this. And we cannot do this alone. So that's why we encourage restaurants to join the movement. Okay, back to the story that I told in the beginning. So what did Chef Massimo do? He creates a Parmigiano Reggiano Day. And through that campaign, he encouraged restaurants abroad, not only in Italy, to join the movement. So what is the movement about? He created a special dish that used Parmigiano Reggiano cheese. And because of that movement, and because many people want to help the local people there, so they're not gonna lose their jobs, so the 380,000 Parmigiano Reggiano cheese were sold because they have to use the cheese to make the products. And people in Modena, they're not losing the job. And even they produce more of Parmigiano Reggiano cheese because of the order and the selling. And this story, I know the food that he's making is using cheese and dairy products, but the point is not that. But the point is about to save the planet. It doesn't need to be a scientist or firefighters or a doctors. But you, as a chef, can be a change maker. You can save the planet by find or exploring a creative idea to create a climatarian dish and join the movement. I would like to introduce our very first participant. It's from Tony Raka Art Lounge in Ubud. They have soto keller and it made from moringa leaf. And a turmeric broth with baby zucchini, carrot, button mushroom, long beans, and soya bean, and served with fried rice. Look at this, it's very delicious. I try it. And yeah, let's join our Climatarian movement. It's very simple. Please go through climatarianmovement.com and do the registration there. You don't have to worry because we will assist you during the registration process until the certification being released. And yeah, get your Climatarian dish certified with 550,000 rupiah, which the 50,000 will go to the food rescue organizations. You will get certificate, badge, information sheets, and professional group. And of course, you will be a leader for the community. And the organizations that you can collaborate with in Bali, we have Scholars of Sustenance, and in Jakarta, we have Food Cycle, and we have Garda Pangan in Surabaya. So you can collaborate with them based on your restaurant's location. And once your Climatarian is certified, we will feature your business on our Instagram platform. Lastly, we believe it's about future proof. It's about saving future generations. But it's not only that, but we're not only reducing the greenhouse gas emission, but also preserving land and water. We believe you, as a chef, as a restaurant owner, you as a food and beverage industry, can be influencer to the community, to your customer. And customer, they can influence their family, their relatives, their friends. And we cannot do this alone. So we need you on this movement. Together, we save our planet. And we will update our calculation of the emission through based on our data update. And of course, we will share the update and we will keep updating you through our climatarian calculations and because we want to visualize the impact. Feel free to reach out through our email, our Instagram, or our WhatsApp. And we will be very happy to have further conversation with you. Have a great day, everyone.